in Toronto. And it's surprising how you can find such wonderful little areas in the city. And I'm hanging out with Ashley T. Thanks so much for coming out this morning, Ashley.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited about this.
We'll start off. I'll just have you talk a little bit about what you're working on this morning.
Okay. So I was trying to think of something I wanted to do for this little section. And Pride Month just ended, and I'm still feeling a little sad because we're still in the pandemic, and I've missed the last two Prides, and I usually celebrate with my brother, and it's a really nice tradition we have together. So I feel like just continuing another little rainbow, just to try and hopefully keep things brighter for 2021, because it's not been going well.
So tell us a little bit about how you got into being a creative.
I have been creating since I was a baby. Always drawing, always painting, writing poetry, that kind of stuff. And my brother really encouraged me. My brother, he's a decade older than me, but he's still my best friend. He bought me my first easel when I was little. Every Christmas, he would always buy me a really nice paint set. Or for my birthdays, he would buy me these beautiful journals and always put an inscription inside of like, keep writing down your stories, stuff like that. And so he was very much my champion back then for continuing, because as I'm sure a lot of kids deal with, arts are not regarded as anything super important. It's a hobby. And we're not really encouraged to pursue it as a career, because finances and medicine, those are careers. So yeah, the fact that my brother was very like, just keep doing it. It doesn't matter. Just keep doing it. Really helped that I kept keeping paints around the house and crayons and stuff like that. But I did get to a point where I lost a lot of faith. Just because beyond my brother, I didn't have much in the way of support. And so there was a very long hiatus between me properly creating. And when I say properly, I mean doing something with intention and with purpose, and that purpose even just being that I feel like putting something into the world today. It was a long while before I got my confidence back, and I stopped writing poetry, I stopped writing my short stories, I stopped painting, and then in maybe like my early 20s, I started getting back into painting as just in a therapeutic sense, that I like having paint on my skin. I like having the brush go over the canvas. It's a very soothing, relaxing thing to do. Hello, Mr. B. And then like, I would say probably in 2018, I came across this huge, ugly, mass-produced painting when the company I was working for at the time took over this new office. And we actually played played pranks on each other that we would just secretly hide it in each other's offices. And it got to the point where I started printing out pictures of my bosses and quietly hiding them on the lady's face. And after a while, they're just like, get rid of this. It's so creepy. Throw it out. And I was like, no, it's good canvas. So I stripped it, repainted it. And that was the first real painting I had done in a really, really long time. And so I felt really happy and inspired by it that I actually started creating again after that. And so I've been creating pretty frequently, especially with acrylics in the past 3 years. And because of that newfound confidence, I actually made it into an artist residency. I was able to showcase a new piece that I created for 2020. And some of my pieces have been featured in zines. I got back into my poetry and I've done some spoken word performances. Some of my poetry has made it into other published zines. And yeah, a lot of people are starting to know my name, and I'm starting to feel this confidence that I can let them know my name. Before, it used to be very scary to the word artist was a naughty word. It wasn't a word that I was allowed to call myself. And now I very proudly call myself an artist.
Yeah. So I usually ask artists to pass along some ideas and things that have worked for you on your journey to emerging artists that are listening out there of all ages.
First and foremost, it's going to sound so cheesy, but I mean it from the bottom of my heart. Believe in yourself and be patient with yourself. Super cheesy, but I had to learn that. I had to learn patience and forgiveness with myself. Of not everyone's going to be a winner. It's not always going to turn out exactly like you thought, but just step back and understand that that's okay. You can either build upon it or you can redo it. You can always black out a canvas, white out a canvas, and start over. And that goes for all types of artists. It's not just visual arts. If you do choreography, if you're a dancer, if you're a musician, and it doesn't sound right away, keep playing with it. Maybe it just needs a heavier bass line. Just play with it and give yourself that space and that time to experiment. And then if you are a super cool person who's just like, I'm bursting with confidence in myself and I don't have to be cheesy, I already believe in myself, start looking at your local community centers. Start looking to see if they're offering art classes or if they're looking for facilitators. Depending on what level you are in your journey and your art, you might be able to teach some other folks who are looking to gain that same level of confidence how to draw a puppy. And yeah, that sounds so simple, but there are people out there willing to pay you to teach a group of people how to draw a puppy. And it's great practice for yourself. It's great for building on your network and getting to learn more techniques, getting to focus your techniques, but also getting to meet all of these people who are just interested in art from different aspects. And that you can also start building your portfolio by doing facilitation. Even if you're not ready to teach or it's not your style, still go to your community centers and see if they're offering art classes, because it might be a technique you've never tried before and it might open you up to a whole new level of skills that you might really enjoy, or you might actually not enjoy, and that's okay. The experience of learning about stuff you don't like, super important. Yep. And yeah, it's... I know a lot of art teachers that also take classes. Yeah, and that's something to really note, is that being in a class, taking a class, participating in a workshop does not mean you're lesser than. It doesn't mean that you're forever going to be a novice in art. It means that you are taking stock of your career or your art journey and you're looking to expand upon it, we can always learn from other artists. So just being open to that sort of interactive education is wonderful. And in no way, it doesn't matter if you are a multi-million-dollar artist or if you have just gotten your first crayon set. Taking a class doesn't change your status. It doesn't make you less. It only builds on you.
So I want to pause a bit and go back to talking a little more about your own journey.
Okay.
And give us an idea of your most memorable or most proud moment that you've experienced so far.
That's a really good question. In the last little while, I've had some pretty good moments where it strengthened my confidence for my arts and just really picked me up as a whole. As a performing artist, I recently was part of Soul Pepper's Queer Youth Cabaret, and we did a production called Queer Futures 2099. Basically, what does queerness look like come the turn of the century? And I made a very vulnerable piece that was based off of an unstructured poem that I had created. And in my presentation of it, I was near nude and covered myself in paints. And it was an expression of our current state with not just queerness, but racism and transphobia and ableism and all of these unnecessary hatreds in this world, and as building towards this beautiful future where my poem wasn't about it would be nice. It was, no, we've made it. All of the work we're doing today, it's made a difference. And I was so terrified of creating that piece, but I pushed myself to do it, and it was so well received to the point that like I was in tears from the sweet messages I was getting and the praise I got online about the piece. So that was really huge for me because it was not only putting out more art into the world and having it really well received, it was putting my physicality into the world, especially as a larger woman, a woman of color who is often excluded from spaces because of how I look. The fact that my body was likened to art because I made it part of my art, it was really it was an accomplishment for me on a professional art level as well as a personal level. And because of that kind of confidence it's been gaining for me, I've been putting myself out there a lot more. And I started writing again. I got, like I mentioned before, I got some of my stuff published in some zines, and they're very gorgeous. They're actually they're not the type that you pass around at swap meets. They're actually beautifully bound ones that are for sale at bookstores right now. So that's quite an accomplishment for me. Being part of the artist residency called Color Palettes, that we were supposed to have a live exhibition in March 2020, but of course the pandemic hit. So we had to push off, and then we ended up doing a virtual gallery in from February to March in 2021.
Where do you see yourself in 10 years? Where would you like to see yourself?
Ooh. In a perfect world, just for fun, I'm going to be unrealistic and say that I've won the lottery. In a perfect world, I've won the lottery and have large amounts of money that I can do all of this without worry. I would really like to own two. Well, no, I would probably make it one massive one. I want to own my own gallery, studio, and events space, because professionally, I'm an art. I'm an events producer, professionally speaking, but that has not been a thing for the past 18 months because live events are not a thing. I do weddings, festivals, concerts, and I've always had this dream of having my own one-stop event space where it's just massive, where I have smaller rooms for smaller events for folks who are lower income, because I don't want it to be this elitist thing. But I also have this grand ballroom where you could have this lavish gala or wedding, and there are just several spaces. And we do in-house catering, we do decor, we actually have our own list of performers and entertainers, and that way I can really keep pushing the money back into local artists and just have our own preferred list. I've always wanted that, and that's been a dream for a long time, but especially now that I'm allowing myself to explore art again, and I'm allowing myself the right to call myself an artist. I've really been dying for my own studio. My apartment is unfortunately covered in paint, and so every so often I have to go scraping it off. But having my own studio where I can just paint on massive canvases and not worry about space constraints or anything like that, and then also just have these beautiful large galleries that folks can visit, and that I can also do like small grants for local artists to do their exhibitions and make it very accessible to them. And because I'm at the heart of everything, I'm about community, I'm about accessibility, I'm about giving back to local. So like all of my dreams where I'm a millionaire and can do all of this, I'm still like running all of these sponsorship programs. And I just want to be able to still carve out this space for myself where like I can change my canvases and whatever I put up there in videos of me performing spoken word, and still present myself and still present my art and still continue to believe in myself by doing that, and have all these other spaces where I might even do it by age, so can have all of these aspiring young artists who are like 5 to 10 years old, and then another gallery is for high school and early college years, and then more mature artists. There are so many older artists who are between like 50 and 70 years old who are creating these amazing pieces that no one talks about because they're not hip and they're not sexy and they're not young. And then
one of the biggest emerging artists demographics is older artists, because a lot of us, especially women, because like myself, kids are grown up, they've moved out, and now
you can explore yourself, you can put time into yourself. And again, not everyone, but most of us go through that same process of art is just a hobby, don't waste your time. And that's what we keep hearing. So especially older women, that once they've done their duty as wives, once they've done their duty as mommy, once they've done their duty as caregiver and home caregiver, they're allowed to reinvest in themselves, and they go into this age group where they're forgotten. And I don't like that. And I would love to be able to just do like this dedicated gallery for older artists of any gender. So in 10 years, I'd like to be a millionaire and remember all of these people and give space for them to be remembered. That's what I'd like.
Well, Ashley, I have to say your enthusiasm and your passion for your work just screams out. Anybody watching this is going to see it and hear it and feel it. It's been an absolute pleasure spending time with you today.
Thank you, you too.
And I thank you so much for participating in this.